Oh wait, actually, what's the episode plan? Obviously, we have
Uh,
to touch on Everton.
yeah, preview the Brighton game. Talk about Everton. Did we have a game at the weekend? Have we had a pod this week?
No, we haven't had a pod this week.
What was the weekend?
That was when we played Chelsea and beat them 1-0.
Oh yeah,
We should
okay,
talk about
yeah. We
that.
can talk about that. About Everton briefly. Preview Brighton. That's kind of it.
What was
Fantasy
our score
for a minute.
prediction last week for against Chelsea? I think I got it
I
right. You
said
know,
I said 2-1 Villa. I think.
I think I said 1-0.
Yeah, because I said Villa clean sheet. Are you mad?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna bring it up first thing. Right. Okay. Hello all and welcome to Slipper Sessions episode 10. I've got fuck. I've fucked it up. Hey,
That's quite
Finny.
good
Oh,
actually.
come on, Finny. Come on. Oh, you bloody struggled. All right.
That's the best intro yet. We should do that every week.
Oh wait, hang on. I need to turn this screen off so I stop looking at it. Um, Finn, do not lick my face, you shit licker.
Shit, liquor.
Yeah, he eats shit.
Well,
Usually his
fair
own.
enough. Bit
Right,
weird,
you're not
Finn.
staying there. I can't do a bloody podcast with you. Either you stay on there and don't react to when I make noise, or you can get out. Lie down. Lie down. Oi, lie down. Never mind. Oh, I might have to deal with him mid-podcast. Right. Hello all and welcome to episode 10 of Slipper Sessions Footballocks podcast. And I'm full of beans today because I got my prediction right last week of a 1-0 win away at Chelsea. And I've completely managed to forget anything that happened midweek. If you say anything, I won't even recognise what you're talking about. So all is good in my Villa worldview. Matt, how's your Villa worldview?
Uh, eh, all right, all right. Nothing's really changed. I feel like this every time. Even when we get a bad result, I feel like nothing really changes in the long term outlook. Uh,
I'm getting a
depends.
little bit um, let's say, well, I'm just going to completely contradict everything I just said because I'm going to talk about the Everton game, but I'm getting a little bit, let's say, restless mentally about
Mm,
this sort of inconsistency, which seems to be a more mental thing than a tactical thing, from what I can tell.
yeah, it's just a bit. Just a bit of instability, isn't there? Really,
Mm.
we're up and down. Um, yeah, it's just. I think injuries play in a big part, to be honest, and
It could
number of
be.
games
I have
because I
heard.
think we
Keep
would
going.
have gone into the season with a much bigger squad had we not had like a load of key injuries. Um,
Yeah, I can see how that would improve the legs and the fitness side, but I don't think we're far enough into the season to be like players are getting fatigued. I have heard that mentioned elsewhere of like, the players looked leggy, they were, missing passes and, losing duels and things like that, which was the
mm,
case, but I find it really hard to buy into that being a fitness issue when we're less than 10 games into the season, or maybe just about 10 games into the season.
yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know what it's like as a professional footballer. Like, obviously, the later you get on into the season, the more likely you are to get fatigued. But I saw an interview with Conser after the Chelsea game, and he was saying that by the end of the game, his legs were giving up on him. Like he was properly knackered, and then he played 90 minutes against Everton again. So I think even at this point, relentless midweek weekend fixtures at a very high intensity is gonna make a difference. To be honest.
Well, I'm not sure if we are playing at that high an intensity, to be honest with you. That's been kind of my judgment of one of the failings when we are playing sort of poorly against, um, you know, Legia Warsaw and Everton is the intensity seems to be lacking a little bit. And
Mm,
maybe I am just sort of proving the point of maybe it is legs, but I don't know. I feel like for me, even if I was tired in that situation, like I'd still do whatever I had to do to try and win that game. And if I happen to then like have to miss the next game because I'm just absolutely dead, I'd be okay with that as long as I did what I had to do on the pitch to
Yeah,
get the job done. And I just see sometimes players just not putting that all in when, especially when it's coming down to like pressing opposition
yeah,
players, trying to take on their opposite man, um, even you know just running about the pitch to try and receive the ball. Like it's just it seems so
yeah,
stagnant a lot of the time.
yeah. I think it could be just instability in the team. I think that the players we brought in to be rotation options maybe haven't settled yet. Because to be honest, if you think about it, our worst performances where we've been where you feel like that was really a game we should have won is Everton at home in the week,
Hmm.
Legia Warsaw. Definitely should have performed better. And then there was the Newcastle game and the Liverpool game, but they were very hard games. So really, the really disappointing performances have been Everton and Legia Warsaw.
Yeah.
Um, and they're games where we've changed the team up a lot. Like Everton, we played Olsen in goal, who if we had Martinez in goal, the second goal, like Martinez is really good at one-on-ones. It was a one-on-one situation, might not have happened. And Olsen gave the ball away for the first goal. We played John McGinn at left back, Dendoncker in midfield, who hadn't played up to that point. Tielemans, who doesn't really seem like he's found his spot in the squad. So I think it seems like when we play on the weekends with our fairly settled team, it seems like it operates as a unit much more effectively. And maybe where we seem to lack a bit of like intensity, it might not necessarily be lack of effort, but a lack of understanding of what your role is on the pitch and stuff because there's been a lot of changes.
Yeah, perhaps it could be that because even looking at the end of last season, we were playing often, more than once a week because of the change in schedule from like a sort of extension of COVID and the World Cup. And
Yeah,
yet every week we put in such great performances with so much intensity and heart and passion, and that was at the end of a season. So I'm finding it hard to really get my head around this idea that we're already fatigued. Yes, I
yeah, I could see
understand
that. Yeah,
rotation's a thing, but I think it's just a bit of a scapegoat for possibly deeper issues. Now, I'm not saying that we are fundamentally a bad side and Emery can't coach a team. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. He's clearly very good at coaching a team, and we've got a very good squad for the level we want to be at. But there's just I don't know if it's what it is. It's just that missing X factor. You know what I mean?
yeah,
We sort of seem to have it against Everton, but that was a very poor Everton side at the time. And then when they've now come to our place, we seem to just sort of lost it again. And I
yeah.
just don't know.
It is hard to explain because did you watch the Everton game?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was like first half we just I mean they played well. Like Everton, I think are sort of coming into a bit of a good moment. They're finding a little bit of form. Um, Everton played well. They brought it to us, and it was just mistakes. It was like
I don't
it was
think they
like a
did
little bit.
really. It was purely our mistakes. The only reason they had any chance of winning that game.
Well, I think they pressed well. I think they
But they
brought a lot
they
of it.
didn't create any chances though. Like
No,
it was purely
no,
us.
we did. And like second half, we controlled the game really well. They got they got a goal from a mistake.
Mm.
Um,
That goal that Calvert-Lewin scores. I think the way Konza approaches that situation kind of epitomises this mentality thing, this kind of missing X factor that I'm talking about. There's two ways to go about that situation. There's stand off, let him take the touch, and jockey him, stop him from progressing up the pitch, or there's push up aggressively and get to the ball first, or at least put a tackle in some way, make a challenge. But he just hesitates and doesn't do either. Sort of stands halfway in between where you'd want to be for each one, and then just sort of half puts a foot out while Calvert-Lewin just runs straight past him.
Yeah.
And I'm not
I mean,
specifically saying Konsa's an issue. I'm just saying that sort of almost lack of confidence in making the decision. I don't know where it's come from. Like Konsa last season would have probably easily just hung back there, jockeyed the guy, waited for reinforcements, and we would have been a lot more stable. But there was almost something within him that, I don't know, just made him think he had to
yeah.
do something
Well,
different,
what
or
I'd say is,
I don't know.
um, it could be that. Alternatively, you could put it on like a sort of lack of mentality from Konza or whatever. You could also put it on, I think, a lack of familiarity with player roles, because Tielemans is the guy who gave the ball away, and I think if that had been Kamara on the ball, Konsa would have been more familiar with Kamara's like positioning, where what Kamara tends to do with the ball, where Konsa should be in response. But I think maybe because it was Tielemans and it's a new player who's not fully understanding the system yet, then the two players kind of confuse each other because they both kind of came towards the ball. Tielemans kind of made a bit of a lackluster pass, but Konsa didn't get there because Konsa wasn't sure whether to commit forward or to hold back. And I think maybe there's a lack of understanding going on, and that is sort of like presenting itself as a lack of intensity, but maybe it's kind of just a confusion, unfamiliarity with
I suppose,
players
yeah,
in the
it's
squad.
hard to really commit to something and put your all into it when you don't know exactly what that is, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um,
like when teams are at their best, and this maybe explains our form on the back end of last season, where the team, because we had a really small squad, the team stayed really consistent. And you can only be at your best when you know subconsciously what all your teammates are going to be doing, where they're going to be on the pitch, what decisions they're going to make. And I think maybe the team is just not at that point yet, especially when we make changes.
yeah, I mean, my only rebuttal to that would be looking at Brighton. You know, they make so many changes, but yet they still
Yeah,
roll teams over, and it's
yeah,
sort of
that's the
like,
thing. It's,
is that because they've been
yeah,
there longer and that system's more settled, or is that just because there's a better feeling around the club, there's a better mentality within the squad of how to approach games and things like that? It's hard to know exactly, but
it
there's
is.
definitely
Yeah, you
something there.
can't really. Yeah, there's something going on. I mean, Brighton will be interesting because it'll be a properly tough game, but we're at home, so I think there will still be an expectation to at least get a result and probably win the game.
Yep.
But it's a very difficult game, so like it's kind of a bit of a worrying game because I could see us like battling it out, it being quite close. Both teams probably scoring, either end in a draw or maybe we'll edge a win. I could equally see us like getting rolled over, to be honest, if we
Potentially.
are looking a bit disjointed, and like we're not mentally completely on it, we could like concede a few goals easily.
Yeah, I
So
think, I
it'll be
mean,
an
looking
interesting one.
at the game against Chelsea, you know, even though we did win and we put in a decent performance, I think, you know, if Chelsea had been slightly better finishers on the day, we would have easily lost, um, especially with them
Yeah,
being at home. Obviously, Chelsea have been poor finishers for a while now, and perhaps that did play into the tactics in terms of potentially letting them get into certain positions at times in order to
yeah.
counter. But I find it hard to ever think that part of a playing style is to offer the other team chances. So,
Well, I
yeah,
saw an interesting thing actually. I was thinking about this. Watkins did an interview after the game, and
yeah,
he said that he talked about how we have a high risk play style, um, and how they're instructed not necessarily to give up chances, but they're aware of the fact that they will give up chances and they take that risk in order to create chances for themselves. And he also mentioned Martinez as a really good one-on-one goalkeeper, and how that has actually played into the identity of our team, in that we know that we can probably afford maybe one or two more decent one-on-one situations for the opposition team,
yeah.
because we've got a goalkeeper who is possibly as good as any in the league at one-on-ones. So I mean, it's not like we're creating a setup that is designed to allow them chances, but I think we do definitely take more risks in terms of giving the other team opportunities,
Yeah.
and we're perfectly happy to do that
Mm.
long in
But
return.
against a team like Brighton, who are so clinical and so creative,
Yeah, that's the thing.
it's going to
Like
be
their wingers could just,
yeah
if our defense isn't really on it with the offside trap, the high line, if our midfield doesn't press their midfielders um, really disciplined, then yeah, they could send balls over the top for the wingers all day, and we could get ripped apart.
Well, they don't even necessarily send balls over the top that often. It's more of a getting players in between the lines and sending, uh, little through balls between players rather than sort of hoofing it over top
Well,
into
it's not
space.
hoofing
It's
it, but I saw a stat the other day that Brighton have played the third most long balls of any team in the Premier League this season.
okay.
Um, So because they obviously their centre backs hold the ball and wait for the other team to come onto them, don't they? And then
Yeah,
I think their wingers stay really high up the pitch, and they will definitely try to exploit the fact that if they can draw our back line higher and higher, there will be loads and loads of space in behind there.
yeah,
And yes, it's not hoofing it. It'll be because their line pushes up quite high as well, but they'll attract the press. They'll find a midfielder in space, and then they'll look for through balls.
yeah.
Um,
Whereas I think the problem with us is we tend to either go straight to the midfielders and look for then passes forward to Watkins, or we go crossfield balls from the centre back straight to the wingers, which, if like Everton did well, they blocked up the midfield and just completely dominated Yuri Tielemans because he was useless, to be
yeah,
honest with you. If they do that, then you're forced to then try and take it long to the wingers, and that's really, unless you completely stretch a team, which we found it very difficult to do, it's quite an easy way to defend. Um,
yeah,
us hoofing the ball long. So we do need to find another way to progress, find another way to create chances than purely, you know, ball to Watkins' feet or hoofing it in behind to the wingers, which we often do. We saw it
yeah.
against, was it Everton the first time where Cash scored two? Was
I
it
think that
Everton?
was Burnley.
Burnley, sorry. Where we were actually sort of building the play up using the fullbacks and the wingers, and then they were playing these intricate little passing movements on the edge of the box to get into the box, all running forward and moving at the same time, and that really overloaded the opposition. Whereas I haven't really seen us do that a whole lot more in any other games. Maybe a
No,
bit in Everton in the first Everton game in the league, but it's something that's been lacking a bit, and we seem
yeah.
a
I
bit
mean,
too
it kind
limited.
of we change our approach, don't we? On based on who we're playing. Emery tinkers with things depending on the opposition quite a lot.
Mm.
I think it's like whereas a team like Brighton tend to play the same way regardless who they're playing, and so when things go wrong for Brighton, you can usually point to the opposition setting up well, maybe, or personnel changes or something like that. Whereas with us, when something goes wrong, it's usually because we've designed a tactic that's not quite worked. Usually it does work. Like I wouldn't say that chance creation has been a problem for us at all this season.
No,
Um,
no. But when the
but
defense of the other, when the opposition defense do catch on, we just look
yeah,
completely
well, that's the thing is that
void
midweek
of
against
ideas.
Everton is the first game, probably the first game of the season where we looked like we just didn't know what we were doing when it came to creating a chance. Because in the second half, we were 2-0 down. We controlled possession. We had like 60 odd percent possession.
Yeah,
We were comfortable on the ball, comfortable keeping the ball. But yeah, it was probably the first time in this season that I'd seen us really not really have a clue what we were doing in terms of breaking through the lines. I don't think Brighton will be like that because they'll have a lot of the ball. They'll leave themselves exposed, but it's just about getting the balance right, really, isn't it? It
yeah,
seems like we haven't really got any problems creating chances, but like I said, we're playing this high risk strategy. Currently, the balance is not quite right because we're conceding too many chances.
yeah.
Um, and Brighton is the kind of team that could very well exploit that.
Mm.
Um,
But at the same time, I think we could. As you say, when we do play different teams, we do tinker with the style, and still, I think our most successful style of play has literally been a low block and counter, which
yeah,
is like not fun to say, but
No, but
our
I
squad
mean,
still kind of suits that way of playing. Like
yeah, I mean,
Zaniolo's not your intricate technical player. Um, Watkins can kind of do that a little bit, but he's not really. You know, Kamara can do that, but he's more of a traditional six. It's only really sort of Dougie, Diaby, Powell to an extent that are going to sort of work in those tight spaces and find gaps and progress the ball despite opposition's blocks.
yeah,
Everyone else is sort of requires more open space, a little bit more freedom to actually play the way they want to play. And because we're not creating that, you're seeing players like Tielemans who are physically challenged, let's say, and Zaniolo who seems to only be able to have one aspect to his game, which is either beats his man and shoots from range, or he does nothing. If there's not the space for them to kind of work to their strengths and express themselves, then that's perhaps when we see a game like Everton where one, they figure out our two main outlets of like Diaby and Watkins, and then two, because they're overloading the midfield, we can't create the space for players to express themselves and bring out that individual talent that creates chances in those sorts of games where you
yeah,
can't do that otherwise.
yeah. I don't know. I think um, in terms of like creating chances, like the Everton game is a one-off. It's the first game this season where a team seems to have sorted out or figured out how to deny us any opportunities, and they basically did pretty effectively. Like the way we play, we do still play on the counter, really, even though we haven't played a low block. We still compact the pitch, and then as soon as we win the ball, we attack really fast. Like the goal against Chelsea is like prime example of that. We
Yeah,
won the ball back, got the ball up the pitch really, really fast. So I don't think that's really a problem. I think we'll do that against Brighton. I think we'll get chances and we'll score. But again, it's about I think when we were really successful last season, we played we still played a fairly high risk strategy. We still played the offside trap and the high line, but we were more pragmatic about when we deployed it. And in certain games, if we were a goal up, then we'd drop back, and then you'd have like the wingers would basically play as fullbacks and play like a really tight, really low block, and we'd be pragmatic about it. But it seems like this season we kind of tried to have been more expansive, but we
yeah,
still can't get it right between playing the high line, playing that high risk strategy where when you win the ball, you've instantly got an opportunity to counter. We've been doing that fine, but we've just not quite got it right in terms of balancing that with defensive stability.
yeah.
Um,
I suppose the
yeah,
identity has is tried to shift a little bit this season to
yeah, we've just tried to
become a
become more
more
controlling and
yeah,
stuff, but
yeah, exactly.
it's not quite
And I suppose
there yet.
maybe we do have to kind of take a step back and look at where we sort of were at the end of last season and say, well, we did kind of expect that coming into this season it was going to be a transition. There were going to be new players coming into the team. There's going to be a whole pre-season, and while the team overall would understand what Emery wants better, there may be some teething problems at the beginning. So
Yeah, and
it's
last
not time to
season
panic.
was an incredible run as well. Like there was all these stats about how the Emery's points per games at Villa and how we would have been third in the league if Emery had started the season with us, and obviously that was unsustainable. We had a really good run that was to some extent unsustainable. So you would expect to drop off, and this is, I suppose, that drop off. And also, if you look at our league position, we're like sixth in the league. We've had some hard fixtures. We've done well to be sixth in the league. I think overall, I think we can be fairly happy with the start to the season. Really, like,
Yeah,
but it's just the fact that there are these certain issues that it's like could become bigger issues if they're not kind of dealt with.
yeah.
Um, but I think, yeah, it's still early in the season, and generally it's been a good performance. It's just we need to be
Yeah,
aware of those certain things.
yeah. I think the big issues right now we've got to get obviously the kit sorted. Um, you know, yeah. I mean, you can see it when they're wearing it. And
Yeah,
I've had
it's
shirts like
really
that
weird actually.
before where it
Yeah,
just sticks to you, and it does just make you feel like I went for a run once and it was soaking wet, and so it drenched my top, and my top was like sticking to me all over, and it did just make me feel like I couldn't breathe quite as much, and I was distracted instead of thinking
yeah. You
about
can
my
imagine how that
pacing
would.
and things like that.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about, oh, I need to get this top off. I need to get this top off.
yeah,
Um, so it was. I mean, it is feasibly something that could be affecting our performance, but obviously you don't want to blame anything on that. I think, again, on top of that, Yuri Tielemans coming out saying he should be playing and then putting in the performances like he did. It's not going to sit well with some players in the squad, I don't think, particularly Dougie.
No, I don't think that's a big deal, to be honest. I think
Um,
like the full quote
it's
of
not a
what he said
huge
was
deal.
that he said that he'd not had enough game time, but he'd spoke to the manager, and the manager had assured him that later on in the season, as the season goes on, there'll be more and more changes to the squad. He did have a bad game against Everton, but his game, the game before that, who was it? Crystal Palace, where he came on and basically changed the game with some brilliant through balls. Um, that created like 2 out of our 3 goals at Crystal Palace. So I think it's probably something to be aware of going forward, like how, because obviously the more time goes on, the more players are going to be unhappy with if they're still not getting game time. But I don't think because Tielemans had one bad game means
Well,
that
it's,
like
no, it's less the fact that he had a bad game, but it's more the fact that he came out publicly talking about discussions with the manager about not having enough games. Whether you came to a good resolution or not, I think that stuff just doesn't necessarily need to come out, especially so early on into his Aston Villa career.
yeah,
And
it was a
then,
bit surprising
if
that he
you
said
are going to
anything.
say stuff like that, put the performance in on the pitch. Have a bit more. Like, I know he's not the most physical guy in the world, but he could have done more in a lot of those duels. I think he gave the ball up quite easily and looked quite flimsy against Everton. Um, I just want to see like slightly different attitude from him. I'm not saying he's got a bad attitude. I'm not condemning him as a Villa player in any way. Just I want to see it better from him going forward in both on and off the pitch. And then as well, getting this contract sorted with Watkins as well is going to be huge, because if you've got a whole squad there that look to one guy as the main goal contributor, and
Yeah,
that guy's got his thoughts and his eyes elsewhere, it's never going to breed confidence within the squad as to having that consistent figure at the front of the pit, at the top of the pitch, who
yeah. I
is an
mean, that
outlet.
could like potentially derail things, couldn't it? If Watkins can't agree a new contract, and then you've got a situation leading up to January where you've got a striker who looks like he's going to be leaving. So you're thinking, do you keep playing him, but he's not committed, or do you play Duran, where Duran's look good, but you don't want to rely on him?
Yeah,
Um, and then Watkins leaves, and then it's like, who do you get in? Like that could be a tricky situation. I think Watkins will sign. I don't think we have to worry about it, but it
I
could
hope so.
potentially be a
Well,
bit of a thing.
apparently there's rumours that Arsenal's director of football has had direct contact with his agent.
Yeah,
He's a childhood Arsenal fan. Arsenal are sort of pretty well known as a team that's kind of in the market for a striker. So there's a lot there to sway his intentions, I guess. But you would hope that he'd stay where he's been for 3 seasons, a club that have given him opportunity and trust and given him the stage to sort of shine, and now are playing European football. You'd think
yeah.
he'd at least
Like
commit a little bit more time.
he he's in the prime of his career, right? And if he went to Arsenal, he's not guaranteed a start there, to be honest, because they bought Gabriel Jesus to be that striker.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously, he's had injury problems and whatever. But Watkins is going to be competing with Gabriel Jesus, and they've got a load of other attackers. They've got like Trossard who can play there, Martinelli can play up front. They've got loads of attackers, and they've also got Nketiah, who's an academy product, and they seem to trust him to some extent. Like, I can't see him going to Arsenal in the peak of his career unless he's guaranteed game time, and I can't see our Arsenal doing that. So,
yeah.
um,
It's them and AC Milan that have been linked, but then of course AC Milan have just bought Balogun in. So, oh wait, no,
yeah,
was that Monaco? Shit, did I just get that wrong? Was it
uh,
Monaco or AC
yeah, it
Milan that
was
bought him?
no, it was Monaco, I think. Well, Monaco was where he was on loan. I don't know where he went.
No, he was on loan at
Oh, other Nice,
no, no,
Rennes.
no. It was RC. No, it wasn't RC Lons. It was another one. That one of those small French
Strasbourg,
clubs.
Reims,
Rams, that's it. Stade Rams or whatever they're
Strasbourg,
called.
Reims.
Right. Anyway, now we're over that. I'm definitely gonna have to cut that out. But right, yeah. So AC Milan are also
Yeah.
interested in Watkins, apparently. So a January move isn't out of the question if he doesn't want to sign a
Yeah,
contract.
I can't see it happening. I can't see a situation where he doesn't
Yeah.
sign. To be
Well,
honest,
I think what we'd have in this situation, if players like Dendoncker and um, well, who else, Zaniolo, don't pick up and start performing when they're rotated in, I think we could, and if Watkins can't commit to a contract, I think we could see a fairly cutthroat January where we might see two or three players leave and a couple bigger names than we might possibly expect come in if
right?
Emery isn't
I
happy
didn't. I can't see
with the
too many
squad.
too many changes in January. To be honest,
I
I mean,
doubt it. I
I get
hope
the
not.
feeling you're not happy with Zaniolo.
No, but I'm thinking like if you're to extrapolate the current performance levels, like there's reasons he's obviously been let go from Roma and shipped out to Galatasaray and things like if he can't adjust to the Premier League as sort of swimmingly as he seemed like he would when he played against Burnley, if he keeps on kind of this, is almost a bit of a Leon Baileyness about him. Like he can do something amazing, but then
I think he's played well, man.
most of the time he kind of just looks like he tries to take on his man and then either loses the ball or just plays a simple pass out to someone else. There's definitely been good moments, but for where we want to go, I think we need higher output. Like you look at,
Yeah,
say,
maybe.
like we look at Brighton for example. Every guy that they bring in, who's usually a relative nobody, just seems to smash it and produce. And that's the like, and we say this about Brighton, and we look at how good they are, yet they're still not bang on for top four or anything, and they are probably you'd say a level above us at the moment in terms of their play style, the output, the confidence in the club, and their trajectory. So it doesn't kind of say that we. I don't know how to explain this, but like it's not the level that we want if we want to achieve top four in the next couple of years. We do need to see sort of faster impact than that because we're already on this trajectory and we need to keep improving. If we have to wait too long for certain players to adjust and potentially never adjust, then I think you could see Emery get frustrated because he wants it to work in the Premier League. He's been here before and it hasn't quite worked out. I think he's really determined this time to make it work. And if there's players holding him back who, even if they have a good level of talent and have good moments, if they can't produce and contribute to the overall vision that Emery has, I think he will be a little bit more cutthroat than we've seen so far.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, I think Zaniolo's been good. Like I said before, I don't think chance creation is a problem. I don't think any of our attackers have been bad. I even think Bailey has been all right. Uh, I think I think the problem is in our rotation players and our defense. Just seems there's something systematically a
Oh,
little bit wrong with.
yeah, no, of course. I'm not saying that Zaniolo's the problem. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just as a side note to the issues we are having. If those sort of players who aren't quite clicking, and sort of if that continues, I think we would see him make a decision to cut them loose quicker than we probably would normally. Is all I'm saying. I think he would be a little more cutthroat, just because we've sort of seen this level of progression that we're able to achieve with the right sort of squad harmony, everyone contributing in the way that he expects. I think just generally, if players aren't able to do that as soon as he'd like, or if say if someone has if Daniel has a season this season like Leon Bailey last season, I don't see us buying him at the end of the loan, for example.
I mean, yeah, but he's been better than Bailey, to be honest.
Oh, I'll just say I disagree. I'll leave that there. We'll move on now.
I don't see many changes in January, to be honest. Unless we continue to have
I
stupid
hope not.
injury problems.
I hope not. I hope
Um,
Zaniolo improves. I hope Tielemans improves. I hope it all improves and Watkins signs a contract and we figure it
I
out
think
at the
it would be
back.
really stupid
But
if we suddenly, like 3 or 4 months in, decided that Zaniolo, Tielemans, and these players we signed are suddenly not good enough. Like I think they're players that have proven that they're probably at a good enough level to be at Villa, where we're expecting to hopefully finish like top seven. That's the level we're aiming for. I think they've done enough to prove that previously in their careers. I don't think they've done anything to suggest that we'll get rid of them in like 3 months. I think that would be really
I think
rash.
Tielemans is safe just because of obviously his previous performances in the Premier League and things like that. But I'm talking more that sort of Zaniolo Bailey kind of level where it's like we haven't spent fortunes on their wages and transfer fees where it becomes like a big problem or a stupid decision if we let them go and don't give them time. But at the same time, you know, if they don't produce, you can't just keep them in the squad forever. You know.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's about whether we could replace them with anything better, really, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
um, I guess if Zaniolo continues to perform at this level, and we've got someone ready to come in January who we've identified as someone who can come in and improve the squad immediately, then potentially I could see us like getting rid of him. But I don't know. Just seems too soon to make that kind of decision, considering the entire team has been a bit hit and miss.
Yeah.
It
Well, we
seems
are still linked to Goncalves. Apparently, we're still discussing a transfer for Goncalves. He would
yeah.
sit on that left-hand side. Anyway, right. Let's move on from squad issues or anything like that. Shall we think about score predictions?
For the weekend.
Should we do the whole league?
Yeah, man. I thought that's what you meant.
Um, let's do the whole league. Oh, I was thinking originally just Villa and Brighton, but we can start with
No,
that,
we'll
of
do them all.
course.
Did them all last week. We'll do them all.
I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say. Desmond.
Yeah, I think that'll be a common prediction for our game. Not gonna lie,
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
it's
Two
kind of got that
high-scoring
written all over it,
teams.
hasn't it?
We
Yeah,
do. We are kind of Brighton's bogey team in a way,
a little
but
bit.
we
Well,
have been
yeah,
a little
yeah.
inconsistent. So I could see a draw there.
Got the Zaniolo goal, hasn't it? After that,
I hope so. I hope you're right. Yeah. Anyway, Bournemouth Arsenal. What are you thinking?
what?
Bournemouth Arsenal. What are you thinking? Arsenal away.
2-0 to the Arsenal.
I'm gonna go 1-0 Bournemouth.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
what a dickhead!
Oh, Everton Luton. That's an interesting one.
2-0 or 2-1 Everton. Calvert-Lewin back in the game. They've played well the last few matches. Luton might nick a goal. They get a load of crosses in.
I
But
think 1-1.
yeah, really,
Yeah.
Luton to get a result against Everton away.
I think they're so similar in their sort of ideas of how to play football, which is basically be a bunch of big blokes and hoof it most of the time.
I don't think that. I think you've got this Everton vendetta, man. Like
I
you
do.
always hit on Everton. Like they're actually decent.
Nah, they're not. They're not. They're on a good
They're
run of
better.
form.
Are they? Are they better than you thought they were going to be this season?
Um, yeah, but I still think they're shit.
They've got McNeil and Harrison just come back from injury. I think they'll improve a little bit. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, I think they're a better team than Luton, and they're at home. So,
United Crystal Palace.
I think United will go big in this one. No, they won't. No, take it back.
I'd say 2-1
Yeah, never
United.
mind. Yeah, I think 3-1. I think they'll play well. They're not going to go big. That's kind of weird, but I think they will play quite well.
Newcastle Burnley. 4-1, I reckon. To Newcastle.
3-0. I don't see Burnley scoring.
Well, I've brought Koleosha into my FPL, so I've kind of predicted that he might have an impact on the break potentially.
Who the hell is that?
He's a Burnley player. He's looked pretty electric, to be fair.
Yeah, but he does play for Burnley.
So you've got a Burnley vendetta, have you?
No, but they are shit.
West Ham, Sheffield United.
2-2 2-0. West Ham
Yeah, I was thinking 2-0.
2-1. West Ham haven't had a clean sheet yet this season, so maybe an Archer goal on the counter.
Mm, yeah, maybe. I just think, I don't know, West Ham have been really good this season. Sheffield United have relied on either Archer or luck, and I don't see them getting lot of luck against West Ham, who are quite solid defensively, and they're great at set pieces. So I just think a nice, comfortable 2-0 win. I think they'll look
Comfortably.
pretty comfortable in the game, but they won't be dominant, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
City Wolves.
Uh, this is a weird one because Wolves are like sort of bad, but they seem to like sort of play all right sometimes. That's a pretty insightful point I just made there. Um, and like City have obviously like they've been City. They've not really had any problems, but I can't see them rolling Wolves over. To be honest, I think it might be quite tight until they break through in like 70th minute, and then they score a couple goals. Like maybe 2-0 City, maybe 2-1 even.
I'm thinking 3-0 City, to be honest. I think it'll be quite comfortable. I don't think Wolves will have enough to score against them, to be honest. They did against Liverpool,
Yeah,
but Liverpool had a shitty defence, and they ended up running out 3-1 winners anyway. I think City would just be a step above that and be a nice, comfortable 3-0.
yeah,
Tottenham Liverpool. Now, this is the big game, the interesting one. You could say a lot about
yeah,
this.
yeah. Tough one to predict. Maybe Tottenham at home edges it, but also I think Liverpool are a better team. They've got better personnel, um, but Tottenham are obviously playing really well at the moment.
I'm going to predict a scoreline, but I'm not going to predict the result. I'm going to say it's going to be 3-2. I don't know who that's going to be in favour of.
That's bullshit. That's a cop out.
I don't know, because I'm still. That's more specific than, just a win or a loser. But it's not as good
Yeah,
as.
I think.
Okay, Liverpool 3-2. Liverpool 3-2.
Really,
Yeah.
I want to say that I think Liverpool win the game because I want Liverpool to win the game, but I
Classic.
kind of I think Tottenham might win for some reason.
No,
Oh, it's
not for
really
me.
hard.
Not for me. I've got. I'm going 3-2.
Ah,
Although
what do I
a few
say?
seconds ago I was saying 3-2 either way. But
I'm gonna go Liverpool.
yeah, I'm going to put my eggs
Change
in
my
one
mind.
basket and go Liverpool.
I'm gonna go. I think 3-2 is a good shout. Maybe 2-1. I think
Mm.
Tottenham will keep the ball. They'll press really high. They'll be really intense, and they'll just slip up a couple of times defensively. And Nunez, Salah on the counter will win the game for Liverpool.
I kind of think it'll be the other way. I think Liverpool will dominate the ball.
Really?
Yeah, I think Tottenham will rely on the pace out on the wings.
Tottenham have been like totally dominant possession wise in all their games so far.
Yeah, but they're playing Liverpool.
Yeah, but Liverpool haven't been that dominant possession wise.
Did you see when they played us?
Yeah, but that was us.
We've
We're
been
like
we've
they
been decent
away at
overall.
Arsenal had 60% possession.
I think Arsenal gave them that though. I think Arteta quite likes to emulate Guardiola in a lot of ways, and we saw that from Guardiola last season when they played Arsenal. They went, okay, we know Arsenal want to come here and go toe to toe with us and try and prove that they're the best team in the league. So we're just going to go, okay, you have the ball. We're going to play to our strengths, to the fact that we're a bigger side, we're more clinical, and we're going to try and catch you on the break. And they did that, and they won 3-1, and it looked very, very effective. And I think we could see something similar happen here. But then again, Liverpool aren't City, so you never know.
Yeah, I find it hard to like evaluate Liverpool this season because they've sort of been like good. Their results have been really good. Some of their performances have been really good, but I still don't really know where they're at. It's
Yeah,
kind of
it is
a
quite difficult
tough
because
team
they've
to get
had
a gauge on.
the defense has been below par, but they have had injuries. Their midfield looks interesting. and their attack just is on fire. So that's pretty much why I've gone for a 3-2. I think their attack's better
Yeah,
than Spurs, despite the fact that Spurs have probably scored more goals. I think midfield-wise, they'll probably have enough to keep the ball against Spurs, but if it becomes a physical battle, Spurs will probably dominate in that midfield at least. And defensive-wise, they're both not brilliant, just because Spurs' fullbacks do play so high up the pitch that they do leave
yeah,
themselves open, and then Liverpool's backline has just been a bit shit. So
yeah,
they're both going to concede. But yeah, I'm erring on the side of Liverpool.
yeah, yeah. I think me too. I'll go 2-1 Liverpool. Um, and so that's tomorrow. What have we got on Sunday?
Just Forest versus Brentford. This is
That
we'll
it?
go ball draw 0-0 or 1-1, something like that. I think
I reckon. Woo,
1-1.
1-0 Forest.
Ooh, that's big shout. Taiwan.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
maybe Morgan
Yeah,
Gibbs White will step up.
puts a little bit off it, haven't they? And Forest are good at home, so
Yeah. And last but not least, Fulham at home to Chelsea. Oh, last season
0.
this would have been easy to predict, but this year
I
they
think.
both look meh.
Don't know. Fulham have been all right, to be honest. They're not very good going forward, but they're quite solid.
It's pretty much the same as Chelsea.
Yeah, don't know. Yeah, honestly, like 0-0.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
one of them nicks it 1-0, but I couldn't tell you
I'll give Chelsea the benefit of the doubt. I'll go 1-0 Chelsea.
who. Yeah, I
But
think. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, 1-0 Chelsea, 1-0 Fulham, 0-0. All of them likely.
yeah.
Pretty hard one to predict.
Right. Well, I guess that's the end of the episode. 'Cause don't want to go on for too long. So yeah, if you're watching at this point, like, follow, subscribe, and all that. And Matt will bake you a personalised cake if you comment down below.
I won't.
Damn it, Matt! Come on, it's for subscribers.
I won't. I'll send you a quid
I quit. Oh, what if we get
on
like
PayPal.
1,000 comments?
In that case, I'm only sending £1 to the first two.